Oh my God, that is so hot. It's crazy.
That's the best Paris Hilton you could do?
I you have to remember I'm a guy, so I can't do these kind of things. Oh, hi everybody. Welcome to the Game Changer Podcast, where we don't care about how these intros go. I'm your host, Nate the Effing Great, joined as always by the lovely and very talented Victory Bell, aka Tori Clark. How you doing?
I'm good. That's so hot.
Oh my gosh, you California girls. Oh, they're
Not
so hot.
super fabulous. We're here in LA and we're talking on a podcast.
Damn you kids with your sex and rock and roll. Shout out to Cheryl Channing from Family Guy.
Uh,
So we're off
I'm
to a
gonna
great start,
throw in whatever accent you want. Accent fill in blank here.
right? So normally, guys, we have been going through the eras of Disney, especially the movies that have been coming up. So for the next few while, we're actually going to change things up a bit. So we're going to talk about a couple of the movies that happened during the wartime. Then next week, we're actually going to be going into the ones that we're going to be really excited to be talking about. So giving ourselves a break from some of these because my goodness, these next two movies that we're talking about were mercifully short, but also felt very underwhelming to say the least. And we have to give a little bit of backstory on this. So obviously, both of these movies came out during the 40s. What also happened during this 40s? World War II. So unfortunately, some of the animators that were a premium part of Disney got drafted. So a lot of the things that actually took place in the studio was that unfortunately a lot of these bigger animators were drafted over. They're fighting for the country, definitely doing everything they can. And there was only so much that they could do. So instead of doing these long feature length movies, what they did is they actually decided to take shorter stories and just kind of insert them into the movies. And those are kind of like the next six movies because a lot of people probably notice, well, wait a minute. Why aren't we getting like feature long length movies? Why aren't we getting this guy? That's kind of the reason what they were doing it. And for these two, which are Saludos Amigos and the Three Caballeros, are focusing mainly on the culture of Central America, Mexico, as well as South America as well. So, give you a little bit of perspective. First one, Saludos Amigos. We both had a chance. I remember watching this, and literally, I thought, wait, this is a 45-minute. This is not even a movie. This is like a behind the scenes kind of deal. And I actually listened to a couple of like reviewists that basically talked about this and basically what they said is like, oh, hey, all these animators, they went to South America. They went to Mexico to basically draw and paint. And it's like, well, you know what? That's cool. That's great to have that. But this seems more like a behind the scenes feature than an actual movie, really.
Yeah, I agree. And it had so much like it's weird because like we're technically kind of doing like Disney animated films, right? And it's like I would say ugh, I would say a majority of at least this one was like real footage, documentary style, like footage of like Chile and Argentina and Brazil, like and going through, which was an interesting thing in the sense of like, oh wow, we're touring, but it was just a little weird. It just yeah, I didn't feel like it was a movie. I just felt like it was like I guess it just wanted to stay away from the war. And now that you say it like that, like I'm like they, what continent wasn't fighting? South America wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah. And the thing is that they still would do like the kind of mini like Disney shorts. I do remember that there was actually one Disney short that they did where Donald had this dream that he was a part of the Nazi army. And honestly, it's one of those things where watching it back, I will say it does not hold up, but it is one of those things where I kind of look back at it and just watch kind of like the weird kind of comedy-ish deal that they tried to put into it. And it ends with Donald waking up and just being like, "Oh, God bless the United States of America." And then I think the cartoon ends with a like a animated picture of Hitler's face, and he's just getting a tomato thrown at it. So it's just Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting watch. If I Tori, I'm gonna have to send you that cartoon because it is
That's what I
on.
mean. I'm like, that wasn't this movie, right? Because I'm like,
No,
I
no,
don't
no, no,
remember
no,
that at all. Okay.
no, no,
I
no,
was
no, no,
literally
no,
like, I was wondering, I was like, I don't think I watched that.
no, no, no.
Like it was
This was something that
all
was
about South America.
yeah, no, this was off the
Oh,
off the movie. This was like one of those features that it has been since banned on national TV,
oh
but
yeah,
it's not banned on YouTube, shockingly enough.
of course
So
not. Like, but it was interesting too. I don't know if you were intrigued by this, but I thought it was interesting how much they how much at least Disney Plus. I don't know where you watched your two movies, but
plus,
like
yeah.
they had like a 15-second disclaimer that you couldn't skip
Mhm.
just so that they could talk about like cultural appropriation stereotypes and all this stuff. And I was just like, oh dang, like what are they gonna do that's gonna be this bad? And I don't know. I don't know. When there's parrots and stuff, I was kind of like, I didn't feel like it was doing too bad, but I guess I don't know the voice actors or anything. So maybe they were all white guys doing an accent and speaking a different language.
I I don't think that was it because I think that the green parrot that we'll talk about also in Three
Joe, right?
Caballeros
Joe.
Jose and
Yeah, well, they call him. Yeah, they
yeah
call
if
him
you
Joe
call him
and
Joe, but
Jose.
yeah
They called him Jose
um
when they did the Mexico portion,
yeah
which is funny.
I think I think that he is of I think he's of Latin descent. I want to say because he definitely
He spoke
sounds like it.
Portuguese really good. Like
Yes, yes.
I
Um,
would be impressed if he spoke Portuguese that well and was also just like this like American guy who's like, well, I'm trying this voice. I would be like, wow,
right.
good Portuguese, man.
Um, but I think I will say this that we could talk about some of the negatives about how it just felt like four different small movies kind of put into one. One of the things I will say, and it's goes without saying that early Disney, one thing that always still stands the test of time is how good the animation looks. I mean, for Christ's sakes, it's a Disney movie, so it's still going to look very beautiful. It's still going to look very good, and the fact that they kind of showed like what were the inspirations behind these, like the backgrounds and how these things are good. That's really good to see. As far as like the mini stories that are kind of involved with this, I mean, they have one that talks about a plane, about Goofy as a gaucho. And there are like these two other ones. I mean, I literally have the Wikipedia one up here right now. It's one of those things where it's like, do I even want to even talk about? Oh, that's right. One about Lake Titicaca and
Just heard you
Aquarel
say
do
late
Brazil.
titty. I was like, what?
Yep. I try to keep it PG, but hey, this is legit what it's called. So to be fair,
Yeah.
and then Aquarel do Brazil, which I believe this is where they get um this is where Jose makes his kind of debut into the deal, and it just ends with this kind of
Really
ends with
artsy.
yeah, it's kind of like a samba kind of deal.
Yeah.
And what I love about this is that it just where it just kind of talks like introduces him to the introduces Donald to the samba. After that, the film ends. I'm like, that is literally it. Kind of encompasses it. That like there's not much of a story that kind of goes on with this. It's just kind of there. Like I'll put it to you guys like this. This is like watching something that you'd see on Discovery Channel or National Geographics, where it's just like, oh, this is how we get this. But they had those little cartoons in there that'll kind of keep rope the kids in. So it's like, yeah, it's an educational film, but it's still fun, really. And I'm just kind of
Yeah.
watching this like,
Yeah. It felt like a PBS thing. Like a like learn now. And like even the narrator sounded like he was going to teach us something about Brazil. And you're like, can we form like I almost was like, let's try Fantasia style without all music. And I was like, ooh, no, no, it's not great. Like the plane one, like I was actually like, are they killing this plane? No, let go of the mail. Was it Pedro?
Pedro, yes.
Yeah, it was like Pedro, no, Pedro, no, leave the mail. The narrator's just continually, let the male die. I was over here like half watching, half like working and being like, are they murdering this plane? And then he's like, and Pedro's parents were so sad he never returned. And I was like, what? What are they doing? And then all of a sudden, wait, no, there he is. He's coming. Oh, it's Pedro. Oh, and Petey. Oh, Pete. He's flipped up. And you're like, what is going on? Like, why are we watching this?
Because we have to appreciate the humble beginnings of Disney and sometimes I don't know,
But do you
enjoying it
know what
all.
I'm saying? Like, were you also like,
Yes.
what is going, like, why, like, these two planes are like crying that their sun plane died. Like,
Oh,
and now
sun
that you're saying
plane.
like the war, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's even more intense. Like that they like, oh, the plane never came back. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah. So I think we'll wrap this up and then we'll move on to the next one. Bottom line is that this is kind of one of those like quote unquote, I guess, educational ones that you could kind of introduce. But honestly, this feels more like a background noise kind of deal. Like if you want your kids to just play whatever they want, but they need to kind of deal. That's kind of what this movie is. Nothing. It is one that if you skip it, you're not missing much. Honestly, it's just one of those things like, hey, appreciate the fact that they went down and they went on vacation and they did that and they draw stuff, which paid.
They draw.
Animating back then was very hard, honestly. But it was just one of those things where it's like this still didn't need to exist. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's I mean, it was what it was. I was intrigued by, like, I was kind of like bowing or like giving like a I'm like, wow, it's cool that they're showing different cultures. I thought that was cool. And I thought that like having the different languages within like within the film also really cool. But was it a story even? Like kind of, not really, kind of not. Kind of just a tour of South America. And it
Right.
almost just was like, oh, was this made to just set up three caballeros? Like, I don't know.
It, I mean, it kind of does feel like that. Uh,
Kind
uh,
of.
so I will say this. There is actually one cool thing I want to mention here that it actually won an award for best documentary by the National Board of Review Awards. So
Okay, so we were right. It is a documentary. It's not
I
even
mean, yeah,
oh, it's not even like a Disney movie. It's a docu-series. What are
pretty
we
much.
doing?
Pretty much. I mean, at this point, might as well. Yeah, so I think we can yeah, I think we could just move on to the next one, which is the Three Caballeros. And I want to just state this right off the bat. One of the funniest things that already just starts off the entire movie is that they talk about how Donald Duck's birthday is on Friday the 13th. Like the opening deal is literally that. I'm like, okay, that's kind of mean, but that's also really, really funny because now I want there to be a crossover between Jason Voorhees and Donald Duck at this point.
I mean, I will tell you, these two films, like, I don't recall any other like main Disney people besides Goofy and Donald, but like Donald is a huge part of both of them. And totally different perspective on Donald Duck. Didn't know he was such a horn dog.
Jeez. Oh, trust me, we're gonna get into that.
My goodness. I'm over here like, what is like, why is he so into these women? Like he's just like, oh my gosh, look at that one. Now it's mine. And like he even grows green horns once with envy. I was like, whoa, calm down, Donald. Where's Daisy? He hasn't met Daisy yet, obviously. Somebody
Right.
needs to help this man.
So, Three Caballeros is basically Donald celebrating his 10th anniversary, I guess 10th birthday, whatever it is. Um, but basically he gets like these three different presents, and one's like a film reel, which talks a little more I want to say it's more towards like 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 Central America, stuff like that, because they have like the one that talks about the penguin, they talk about a couple of birds, the flying donkey. Just kind of like a mixed It is kind of funny how literally one of the narrators from that one goes to talking about a bird, and then he's just like, "Oh, look, it's me as a kid," and then it's going right into this weird story about how he just
The
finds
flying
this.
donkey.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
that I
where'd this come from? What is
I
this?
I thought we had some sort of bird theme happening, and then that happened, and I was like, I'm just confused. I'm sorry. You lost me. I don't. And like it was such a weird story. And like we were never seen again. I was like, what? Like, dude, what is
That
going
was
on?
literally you're
That was
right.
the end of the story. It was like, and I was never seen again. And I was like, okay, that's why he's just a random voice, but scary, weird. But also I thought it was funny. They were going up South America to Mexico to North America, I felt like. And again, like that's why it was weird. So I watched them in reverse order because like I didn't know they had an order. So I watched Three Caballeros, and then like when I watched the other one, I was like, I think, is this the same? Is this just a different? No, this is the same thing. I was like, oh, I guess they just got a little more detailed, but like they started, like with the penguins in Antarctica slash like, that's in Chile and Argentina has those penguins, which I'm gonna be honest, I kind of like jumped ahead.
That's fair. So after he does this weird kind of like slideshow slash movie thing, we get reintroduced, I guess, to Jose. And oh no, I do have to mention one more thing before we go too much further. Um, Even though there was all this weird stuff that was going on, one of the funniest things that came out of that movie is the Araquan bird, that little red bird that just has that theme song of I'm just like, okay, that song is so catchy. It's stuck
That
in my
was
head.
so weird.
I know, but it's so good. That's what makes
Well,
it
it
good.
was so weird and like I was trying to think like are they making up birds or because I didn't Google them, but like I feel like they were just making up weird birds to like look weird. Like they were just like, "Hi, I'm one bird," and then the other bird was like, "And I'm the other bird," and then this other bird comes in, and he's like, "And I'm a scissor bird." And I was just like, what is going on? Like, what is this? Like, I felt like it was all like very sexually repressed the whole time. Like, Donald was like, either like going after women or the birds were like, please pick me. And I was like, what is going on? The donkey one didn't seem that sexually repressed, but that was
No,
just weird.
right. So to your credit, we are getting into that whole deal where we're starting to see, well, what is going on here with Donald? Because, like I said, we get reintroduced to Jose, who talks about Bahia, which is one of the states of Brazil, one of the 26 states. Which I'm just learning that right now. I'm like, wow, only 26 states in Brazil. They're organized. I like it. So they go into this book, and this is kind of one of the first few times we're actually seeing Disney start doing this deal where they have like the cartoons interact with people in live action.
Mhm.
So they get introduced to Yaya, who is like the cookie seller, and she's just making Donald
What
just
the
go
heck
absolutely
is that?
crazy.
What the heck is that? The cookie seller. I'm like, come on. There really there's cookie sellers just like walking the street and I have a cookie. Come, 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 come.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's oh my gosh. Because
I mean,
it's good crazier because then we have all these guys coming in and they got one guy just
so
making
many
music
guys
with
wanting cookies.
got one playing a guitar, got one playing the pencil, I guess, or something.
He's playing a pencil. What is he doing?
I
Oh,
don't
it was so
know.
funny though. Like I will have to say, I wasn't paying attention too hard because it was ridiculous. But like the song, I was just like, I could saw myself like, dancing a little bit. And I was like, Como que me, como que me. I was like, what are we doing? What does this even mean? I think it's eat, like eat the cookie, but I don't know Portuguese like that. So I don't know.
Right.
But it was
I
weird.
do. It just goes into like another beautiful like musical number, which of course Disney they know how to make great backdrops. And this was probably actually my favorite part of the whole movie, where there are these two guys, and it starts off with them looking like birds fighting each other, and then they're just circling around, and then they're kind of just doing like what is known as dance fighting, which I actually knew from watching the spin-off Jackass series called Wild Boys, because they actually talked about how back in the olden days they actually disguised combat through dance. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's right. We got to see this cool part, and just seeing how they just kind of got that into the movie. I was just kind of like, oh, that's awesome. This is great. I mean, that was like a true highlight for me, being like, oh, I remember this because yeah, they do like these dance deals and just hide it with combat. So I'm I'm gushing about this a little too much, but at the same time, it was still
Oh, I'm glad you're excited about it. I'm glad you had a favorite part.
um but yeah, then they have a whole deal where they're just dancing through the town and the whole town's starting to come alive, and then they leave the book. And bear in mind, people, this is where somehow we get the cartoon side of it, where they shrink into like small size, and leads into a very interesting part, because after going through Bahia, they're like, "Oh, I got one more present to open up." Donald realizes, "Oh, I'm tiny." In fact, he uses the phrase midget, which I thought, "Excuse me, Donald, what'd you say?" And he's like, you're a midget too." I'm like, first of all, I know plenty of people that are midgets, and they are not as small as you are. You're like the size of an ant, to be fair, my good sir. Secondly, hearing Donald say the phrase midget is something that I never thought I would see. And I kind of want this out of my mind, because I've seen Donald a certain way for so long. But bottom line is that they are able to get bigger through quote unquote black magic. So, and it results in one of the most bizarre scenes where Jose, he's totally fine. Donald just turns into like basically an equivalent of a crazy stretchy long balloon kind of deal, which I thought, are we getting like a reintroduction to the pink elephant scene here? What is this? What is this thing? I don't know if this
Right?
even I don't know if that was just one of those few times where you were just like, Nathan, what are you making me watch? What is this?
Yeah. I mean, I was just going with it. I was like, all right, I know they're gonna get to the three caballeros part. I know. Like they have to. That's more that I was just like, this is so weird. Like the black magic, and he was just like a magician. I was like, is that what you all think black magic is?
Well, we get reintroduced to black magic in The Princess and the Frog, and it's nothing like that, to be fair.
Yeah, that's voodoo. Yep.
So they open up the third present, and it is Panchito, who talks about Mexico. And this is where the movie takes a really weird turn. Like you said, we get basically like the introduction of like, oh, this is how they celebrate Christmas with actually, this was a really nice story. I want to talk about this a little bit, where basically these children are walking through the streets, they have candles, and they're basically being asked to be let in, and many times they'll be turned away until finally somebody lets them in, and hey, it's a celebration where they get to, celebrate with piñatas, which honestly, hey, I was a kid. I always wanted a piñata. I had a piñata. That was great. That was great fun. Um, from there, we get into the craziness that is talking about. They talk about like some of the dance styles and some of the classic dances. And once we get into the classic dances, this is where we get, as Tori would say, Donald Duck turning into a horn dog, because he's showing off moves. And then we get to a beach scene where it's just like, oh boy, this is not going to end well, is it? Oh, all three of them want the. Well, I mean, it does say in the song, it says, I'm trying to remember the lyrics where it's like, maybe when some Latin baby says yes, no, or maybe each man for himself. So to be fair, they are all three of them are basically horn dogs at that
Yeah.
point. I mean, there's
I
that
mean, yeah, we were seeing Donald with yeah too, the cookie lady. He was already rearing to go. It
that
was
was
definitely weird. I was definitely like, I don't think I've seen any of the Disney characters as like obsessed with the woman body and figure as Donald was this whole movie. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
It
Like
was weird. It was definitely weird.
uh,
Wasn't like
we got like a 3 minute detour of him literally chasing women on the beach
yes.
blindfolded and then coming out of the sand like a freaking zombie chasing these
I
women. I'm like,
mean,
what? And
he
that was
was
one of those moments
creeping,
where I'm like,
man. He was creeping.
it was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, what the fuck is this? I don't,
I'm not gonna lie, I skipped it because I was like, all right, let's get back to either singing or dancing because
which,
watching you chase the women around the beach is creeping me out.
and to be fair, do we get less of that? No, 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 ladies and gentlemen.
More Donald Duck being a
The,
creep.
yeah, there's this one lady singing in the sky, and
That was weird. And like
it,
she's a flower, and I was like, what is going on?
oh, trust me. Then we get into the acid trip part of the movie where literally he's just chasing after these women, but then there's these deals where it's like 100 Donalds, and then all three of them have like their heads on top of ladies' legs, and then they're on a horse with lady legs, and it's like, what? And then finally, Donald is also a flower, and he's flying around with this one lady. Okay, and then we go from there to
Been
a
on LSD,
to
man.
dancing cactus kind of deal, which okay. They're like small cacti, and then they grow to be big cacti, and then just movie ends with him in a bull outfit, and then it just explodes, and it just ends like that. I'm not even kidding. That is legit, like beat for beat, what the movie is.
Yep. And I mean, again, I'm not gonna say I'm upset for watching it, but I was also like, okay, I am more educated on this. Like, I was like, I didn't know how weird it got, but
It's
it
one of
was
the,
weird.
it was one of those things where I look back at it now, I'm like, man, is this why my brain is so discombobulated sometimes? Because of these weird Disney tropes that
Weird
happen.
Disney like trip, yeah, like acid draw, like LSD. I was like, I feel like they were like, okay, so if we don't get the people who are really actually interested in Latin America, maybe we get the druggies, like the hippies coming out. Who knows? Like maybe they'll come out at the end of the movie and they'll be like, this was awesome.
I
But
mean, you have to be definitely in a certain mindset to kind of enjoy this thing. The fact that this movie has like 7 segments on here is kind of amazing. I got I gotta look at the freaking reception for this one because oh my gosh. So granted, this one has more of a narrative. Rotten
yeah.
Tomatoes gave Saludos Amigos 80%. They gave this movie 84% based on the 19 reviews that it had with an average
It
score
only
of
has 19.
it's got an average score of 6.5 out of 10. So
Hmm.
uh the site's consensus reads one of Disney's most abstract creations, The Three Caballeros, is a dazzling, colorful picture that shows the company an artistic uh a keep what? Acme? Really? That's a word? Okay. But
Yeah.
also, did you guys watch the same movie we did? It was literally beautiful imagery and then live action kind of deal mixed in with Donald being a horn dog. Are you sure we watched the same movie? I have questions.
Well, yeah. I mean, we did it. We watched it. Check.
Hey, so
Right? Like that's how
yeah,
I felt too. I was like, all right, I did it. I did my due diligence. I checked it out.
that's really all it is. Just I checked it
Yeah.
out. We're
Yep.
moving
Ah,
on.
yeah. Like if anyone asks me ever in my life, which this is the first time I've ever been asked about those movies, is you. And I could say now, yeah, the Disney did a tour of South America and came back up to us just to avoid the war. I don't
I I mean, you know what, to be fair, it
know.
does make you kind of forget about the war, honestly. I think that
Yeah.
is kind of the main thing is that they're beautiful distractions I think that's probably the best way to put those two movies. They're both beautiful distractions, really, except for the one where Donald is a horn dog. Then it's just like, what the quack? It's really all
Ah,
I mean, I had to throw it in there.
what the quack or what the duck?
Oh, that's even better. There we
It's
go.
all right. It's okay.
There's a reason why
You
we're
win
friends.
some and you lose some, Nate. You win some and you lose some.
Oh man, but yeah, honestly, I am gonna go back to just I'm gonna start posting up my like updated list of rankings for movies that I've had right now. I can tell you guys right now with utmost uncertainty that these two are definitely bottom below Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And between the two, I think I enjoyed Three Caballeros a bit more
Hmm.
than Saludos Amigos
Hmm.
because it definitely did not feel like it was just an educational deal. It definitely felt like they tried something interesting, and it's just like we're gonna give you Latin America combined with Dumbo, basically. I think that's the best way to put that movie. And are you missing anything on Three Caballeros? A couple of the stories are fun, but no, no. I will say this that if Ray ever asks you about those movies, just be like, just don't watch it. I'll tell you right now, they're beautiful distractions, but don't.
Yeah.
It's just like the Joe Family Guy deal where Quagmire's like, I'm not gonna do it. Good, don't. It's just I think
Exactly.
that's the best way when they describe these movies is just good, don't.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you really want to do it, it's there's nothing. There's nothing there that makes me like too stoked. But yeah,
Yeah.
again, at least they spoke the languages correctly and stuff. I know we had that big disclaimer of the 15 seconds of, hey, this could really trigger you about stereotypes and stuff. And there's like cigarettes in the parrot's mouth and blah blah blah. And I I was just over there kind of like, oh, like I'll see how bad it is. And I was like, it's just old animation. And I was happy that they showed the culture. And like you said, they actually went there and like filmed stuff. And so it was kind of cool in that sense, just in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the best way to put it. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna just end it on that note. Next week we're gonna be going into movies that we love enjoying. Now, I have tried to do like a deal where I do like a combo deal, but I think when now that we're getting into the bigger movies, to the ones that people remember most, these are going to be ones that are going to be just one solo movie on one show. So
Mhm.
next time around, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be covering one of the movies that definitely opened the eyes of fans of Disney, being like, "Ooh, they did something nice," and that is the fairy tale known as Cinderella. So that's going to be one interesting take to talk about. Might even talk a little bit about the live action one, general thoughts about it compared to this one. Uh, I do have a lot of thoughts when it comes to it now. I think when I first saw the live action one, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Now that my cynical mind has been twisted and warped by reviewists and movie critics, I have things to say about it. So I might give my
Ah,
I might just throw my 2 cents in about it during next week's show.
why
So
not? Why not?
yeah. So you're basically almost going to get a 2-for-1 deal, basically. But again, we'll talk more about that when we get there. So
BOGO. Buy one, get one.
BOGO. Game Changer Podcast presents a BOGO. One great movie and one slightly okay movie. So we might
It's
still get
free though.
by a California night and a Wisconsin night. What do they know? Well, a lot more than most people do because they have that one thing that really matters: common sense.
Nice, nice. Ooh, good narrator voice.
Some people were like, "Oh, common sense, huh?" Well, I don't think, sir, that you have that much in the way of common sense. I actually think that you have less common sense than I do. I live in my basement, and you know what? I'm gonna bury myself into a hole right now, so I'm just gonna
Yep, like
move
get
on.
out of there, Nate. Where are you going? Where are you going?
It's fine. Come find me. Come find me. If you want to find me, I will probably be in Oklahoma in the nearest shelter where you can't find me because there will be tornadoes to protect me.
Jeez. Nice. Definitely go there.
Who needs guard dogs
Oh,
when you just got like violent wind dust storms protecting you?
true,
But
true.
all right. All right. So we'll wrap it up right here, ladies and gentlemen. Tori, if they want to communicate with you, where could they find you?
communication. I don't do that.
Oh, fair enough.
I'm kidding. No, that was a joke. You can find me on Instagram. It's Tori Clark _ boss mode.
You want to talk to me, then follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RealFNGame. You can also check me out on the Brace for Impact podcast, where I talk about TNA wrestling and just enjoy your time. But we're talking a lot about Disney, and honestly, you guys, we got plans. We got good stuff in the future. I mean, we're going on to one of the really good movies next week, so it's going to be a good time. So thank you guys so much. Take care. We'll see you next time. Adios, amigos.
Bye. Oh,
And
adios is good.
what however they say it in Portuguese.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Dance fight. There.